Everybody, and welcome to another Telling It Like It Is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance. We guide, help small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs. Sharing knowledge and stories is why I started Telling It Like It Is. It is live. You have any questions, ask away. If you're watching this after the fact on a social media channel, put your question in there and we will answer it. I just want to touch base on an event going on right now, the Lighthouse Healers event. Kathy and I have started sharing our story about mental wellness and what we went through, and you should definitely sign up there. The link is going to be in the comment section, and it talks about depression, anxiety, PTSD, and people sharing their stories. So there's lots of inspiration there. So please check it out. Remember, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. And it is a great event. I'd like to thank Joanne at Sexy AF Spirits for their sponsorship. It's 100% premium, alcohol-free, plant-based, low-cal, sugar-free, botanically infused spirit, perfect for mixing. Their website's in the comments section. So all that being said, I am finally able to get to Jeff Jackson, the founder of Bode. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. I usually don't have that big of an intro, but there was a few things going on, and obviously, you know, talking about mental wellness is such a important topic to us after what we went through, and making sure people have that. If you inspire them to come forward and reach out, that's a very powerful first step.
Absolutely.
No, so I really excited about what you guys are doing, and I always talk about how we met. And you are, out of almost 180 episodes, you're one of the first ones I never had a meeting with before, which is rare. And your marketing team reached out, which is awesome. I know Lindsay and obviously David. I've done the Pedal Pub, and we go back into the Drumheller days, and I helped them out. So we had a little brief discussion, and I got lots of friends that are realtors, and whether I like it or not, chances are that we're going to have to use them. We're going to have to go down this route. But I love what you guys are doing. I love putting money in the hands of myself and not giving it away. But, so is this why you started Bode? Please share your story.
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess a bit of background on myself and in my background in real estate. So I was a realtor I still am technically a realtor. So I became licensed about 14 years ago and started out in the commercial side with Avis & Young doing suburban office leasing, and really didn't enjoy that. Very quickly moved over to the residential side and started my own brokerage. That was 10 years ago, built it up to about 35 agents, but really kind of grew disenchanted with the industry and wanted to do something different. And I vocalized that a lot. I talked about wanting to do something different. And, the real estate industry, a lot of people love to say, well, it hasn't evolved for so long, but I would argue that it has evolved a lot since I've been involved in it and over the last 20 years, really. But it's evolved for one group, and that's for the agent. It's really never evolved for consumers. And so that's really the idea behind Bode, was to empower consumers with data and technology and tools so that they could be empowered to buy and sell real estate if they chose not to have representation.
So why do you think it never evolved for the consumer? Like what? The way it is always done, it's the way it's always going to be mentality, or?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's big business. The barriers to entry are relatively low, and the commissions are relatively high. I look back when I first moved to Calgary, I was 18, and a couple of years later, I bought a condo, and it was $134,000. Of course, I worked with my agent, who's still a really good friend of mine. And, when the prices were back at $130,000, I think my agent earned $3,900, which was quite fair at the time. She drove me around. She sat at the kitchen table with the seller to negotiate a deal. And, you fast forward even 10 years now, that $140,000 condo is now at least $280,000. So prices have doubled. Commissions are still the exact same. So that if that condo were to sell today, the buy side commission is now at least $8,000. Well, what's happened over that 10-year period is that the work has gone down for agents way lower. Now we have DocuSign. We are able to sign contracts digitally. We have apps on our phone that open lock boxes, and all the while buyers are doing way more work. 90% of buyers are searching and finding their own home on realtor.ca. And so buyers are completing more of that process on their own, and commissions haven't adjusted. And I can't point to another industry that in the last 10 years you could say that your salaries have doubled.
Yeah, very, very few, right? I mean, and as you said, I mean, my experience when we bought here again, or even when we sold our house in Saskatoon, very similar. It was, realty driven, kind of driving around, like you said, had to go to house to house to house, or open houses. I know open houses are still going on, but so do you think the actual, or was there more consumer complaints, or was this more of a consumer driven change? When it comes to people are like, I'm tired of paying, 7 or 3.5 or 1% commission.
Yeah, I think that, I look at a few in my last few years of selling real estate, and I joke with our CEO, Rob Price, about this quite a bit. And, I was working with him on the sale of his property and the purchase of his new one. And, we joked that I was kind of, because we're good friends, we can kind of banter. And, he would joke that, you're kind of just getting in the way. And, I've negotiated millions of dollars worth of contracts over the last few years in my career. And, I really felt like just a middleman in that process. I didn't feel like I was bringing value. He did ultimately find his own home, which I remind him was very different from the criteria he told me. But, he found his own home and he negotiated his own deal. And I was really relaying messages. So, not for everyone, but I think a lot of people just feel like they want to deal peer to peer. And that's the way that we operate in so many industries now. And a lot of our peer-to-peer deals, what our buyers and sellers have told us is that the experience was actually a lot better than having someone in the middle and having this, this complicated and non-transparent transaction taking place where you didn't really know what was being communicated in the middle.
Yeah, and I think the access to information, as you said, is such a big thing. I know through Startup TNT, Honest Door just won the investment summit, and they're really trying to make a inroads in Canada, and they've done a really good job in Alberta about putting updates onto your home, what the value is, things along those lines, and they're trying to disrupt the industry in that side of things. So I think people are really able to go. You were talking about, driving around, this house, if we're out in Kelowna or somewhere else, you're like, holy smokes, I can find it. I can look at it. I can do a whole lot of that work. And I probably want to myself because it's easy to access and I want to be knowledgeable about what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're driving towards more and more transparency and more access to data, and Honest Door's done a good job of that. The update is great. As we were talking before we went live, driving around in Lake Country and Kelowna, you just have a natural tendency to want to know what a property is priced for and all the info behind it. And as time goes on, more and more of those details, whether it's permits or tax assessed value or sold history, to see that $2.5 million property on the lake, do I want to know what it sold for 3 years ago? Of course I do. That's going to influence my opinion of value.
No, absolutely. So before we get to your latest big news here, let's talk about the process itself. So I want to sell my home in Calgary here. How does the process work?
Yeah, so we are a fully technology-enabled brokerage. This happens every time.
No worries. I'm a 24-year-old work from home guy. Now you hear dog bark and mine's looking up here wondering where that sound's coming from. We're all good.
Walking by or whoever's delivering an Amazon package.
We're all good.
It won't happen for very long. I could have gone to the office this morning, but I really like being hardwired for video. So he'll stop before long. So yeah, we're a fully enabled technology brokerage. You can list your home very easily online. You simply visit our website. He won't listen to me anyway. He'll keep barking. But so visit the website. Typically our sellers take, 10, 15 minutes to input all their information. You're familiar with your home. So if it's a bungalow or a 2-story, you've bedrooms, bathrooms, all the information, what's included, what's not included. You're going to include the refrigerator, stove, and microwave. You're not going to include the heirloom dining room chandelier. So you put in all that information, you get down to the bottom of the process, and then we allow you to schedule an appointment for photography and measurements. So that's the one thing that has a bit of lead time. So, with iPhones now, everyone thinks that they're a professional photographer. We do encourage professional photos, and we do pay for them. So, I'd say 98% of our sellers will take us up on our offer to get professional photos done. There's a provincial standard for measurements that we require that in order to go to realtor.ca, we have a property professionally measured. Again, we send out one of our peer-reviewed and curated measurement technicians. As soon as that information comes in, we would say, okay, Jade, this is now in your account. Have a look. You would jump into your saved draft and move forward. Submit it. At that point, we take it live on realtor.ca, on Bode, on Zillow, Kijiji, and thousands of other sites. So we have all of our what's called DDF, which is a data feed transmission, turned on, because really that's what's in your best interest, is to be as many places as possible. So there are brokerages that are saying we're not doing that, which I would just argue is not in the best interest of you as a seller. Your best interests are to be posted everywhere. And one of the biggest brokerages here does not cooperate with Zillow. And so your home would not be posted on Zillow if you were to post with an agent that worked for that brokerage. And Zillow, by a lot of people's opinion, is a much nicer viewing platform. So more and more, and we watch that traffic very carefully. We see, if we get 100 views on Realtor, we're getting 300 views on Bode, and we're probably getting 20 to 30 on Zillow. But that number is increasing. More and more people are using Zillow as a search platform.
That's interesting. Again, I'm talking with Jeff Jackson, one of the founders of Bode. Bode.ca is their website. It is in the comments section. Just click on it. It will take you there. I think that's the biggest point of this, is being in the best interest of the seller. I mean, as somebody, I want to get, whether it's top dollar for my home or where it's, how fast I want to sell it, whatever your priority is, it's got to be what I want.
Absolutely.
So did you find when people come on Bode, is it the same type of trend? I mean, it's a hot market right now. Is it, you kind of see the same transaction time? Is there any difference between a traditional broker?
So we've had, typically we trend towards lower days on market, but it really depends on the property type. So, right now, as you mentioned, it's a really hot market, but it's a really hot market for one segment, and that is, detached and, semi-detached homes. Apartments are still struggling a little bit. And if you think about how the pandemic has affected us, it makes sense, right? Like, the reason that anyone lives in I call it a box in the sky, but an apartment in downtown, and it doesn't matter whether this is Calgary, Edmonton, or New York, the reason you live in this small apartment downtown is because you're willing to sacrifice living in 500 square feet because you've got, a boutique fitness studio on the ground floor, you've got a cafe, you've got restaurants. And when all of those things are closed, living in a little box in the sky is a lot less appealing. So that's why we've seen, around Calgary, we've seen areas like Okotoks and Airdrie and Cochrane perform really, really well, because, that apartment might be $500,000. Well, $500,000, if you're willing to drive to Okotoks, now you're looking at a 2-story new home with a big backyard and potentially a home gym and a home office, which have become really, really important in the last, year and a half.
No, I totally agree with you. I can see that, right? Even in our home, it's a fairly large, and you know, it's four, you know, two kids that are, well, now they're back in school, but you know, the wife trying to find a place. I have a spot, and I mean, I've been a work from home guy for a long time, so that adaptation wasn't, but I know she struggled with it. But yeah, I mean, it is something. So, I mean, I've worked with a lot of startups, worked with the startups, interviewed a lot of startups, and everybody has, you know, a big player, a monster, and it's a tough market to break into. So, you know, how was your marketing? What did you guys do to really gain traction for Bode, you know, as a little guy to getting where you are today?
Well, I mean, to begin with, we did something that was very different, right? It's a compelling story to tell, which really helped get the word out. You know, it's funny, when we started this, we would say, like, I had this team, and when we formed the group of founders, none of them had real estate experience, which was really the blessing, and why we've, I think, or why we've had the success that we've had to date, is that, you know, we would be faced with a challenge. It would come up, and they would say, okay, you know, we would brainstorm and collaborate, and how are we going to address this challenge? And they would propose a solution, and I would say, no, we can't do that. You know, that's not the way it's done. And they would say, right, that's the point. and every decision that we've made in the company has always been customer centric and in the best interest of the customer. So, you know, that gained us a lot of early traction and a lot of early PR as well. So, you know, upon founding, we were quick to be on, you know, on Global and on the Danielle Smith Show and on a lot of different PR avenues.
No, I mean, and obviously that's, you know, people really try to get to that point and they can't and gain traction because it's not easy. So did you have a few connections? Did you have a few strings you could pull, things along those lines? I mean, did you reach out? Did anybody help?
Yeah, we had a really good team. I mean, our marketing team is excellent, and they pull on a lot of strings with our PR person as well, who's excellent at what she does.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people, right? I mean, a lot of that has to be, done on your own. But you know, a lot of people may not have a marketing department. So you know what? You reach out to somebody, say, "Hey, Jade, hey Jeff, do you know somebody that can help me? You know, can your PR can you introduce me to her? Can maybe she knows somebody that can help me?" Getting out there and talking and finding out somebody that can help you as a startup is so crucial.
Yeah, if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
Exactly. So you guys just had some really big news, and I don't want to steal the thunder here. So why don't you share what just happened in the last few weeks?
Yeah, so just a week and a half ago, we launched in Vancouver, which has been really exciting. It's the BC market is interesting. They've lost a lot of trust because of how public and the trust with agents.
Yeah.
And it's because of how wild their market has performed in the last 5 years. You know, there's a lot of stories of shadow flipping where houses were being sold before the previous buyer had even taken possession, and, you know, being sold for a lot more money, you know, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, you know, the regulator stepped in and said, okay, well, there's no longer dual agency. They got away with that, which I fully agree with. And I think that dual agency really shouldn't be allowed anywhere. There's no way you can objectively work for a seller's best interest and a buyer's best interest, because their interests are completely opposite. One wants to get the most money and one wants to pay the least money. How can you objectively work in the middle of that? So
exactly.
So we're excited to be in Vancouver. Obviously, values are a lot higher. Days on market is a lot lower. And we think that our model of transparency really fits well in an area that has lost a lot of trust.
And how has that launch gone?
Yeah, it's been good. We're still learning a lot. It's, you know, ultimately selling a home here and selling a home there is not a lot different, but we're still learning a little bit about the idiosyncrasies, and we've got some PR that's set to land in the next couple of days, which is exciting. The decision to go to Vancouver is not just because it was a big market. Our platform will capture anytime someone comes onto the site and starts listing, and that's happened a lot in the last 6 months, we capture where they're from. So, we had a new segment, and all of a sudden we had a lot of people trying to list their homes in Ottawa, and we had people trying to list their homes in Victoria. And, we reach out to them and say, we've captured that this is of interest to you. And that data is what influences what markets we go to next. And Vancouver was one of the ones that we saw a lot of interest.
Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, it's relatively close. It's an absolutely large market, so here we go. It's easier to expand closer to you rather than go to Ottawa or Toronto or things along those lines. It's easy to get to Vancouver, quick to get to Vancouver, and a lot of like-minded Western people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So again, I'm talking with Jeff Jackson, one of the founders of Bode. Bode.ca is the website. It's in the comment section. Please click on it. You'll find out all the information there. So you're doing great in Calgary. You're moved over to Vancouver. What's next?
So we plan to expand, really across Canada. Like I said, consumers will drive that demand, and we'll determine where we go next based on that. We have a roadmap in place that which puts us, and we're not limited to the Canadian borders either. We're looking at other markets, and that's really the beauty of software as a service, is that the scalability of it is really limitless.
No, absolutely. So do you have a timeline of when you say you want to, you go, east, west Canada or head down south? Is it just kind of play it as is, see what comes in and go from there?
Yeah. I mean, timelines shift, but we do have a plan. It's all part of the roadmap to move next to Eastern Canada.
I'm just trying to get a date out of you, right? Like, and I know it's hard, and I know, as you said, timeline shift. I get it, but yep. It's just one of those things. Oh my goodness, that's funny. Again, talking with Jeff Jackson, the founder of Bode. Click on the website in the comment section. So you've been an experienced realtor. You've done it. You've done the brokerage. Now you're changing the system, changing the way things are done with Bode. And that's kind of an interesting transition. And a lot of people have that transition, but in a market that's been very, very similar for the seller side of things anyway. So transitioning from the old school to a SaaS. If you had one piece of advice for a small business entrepreneur or startup, Jeff, what would that be?
So the first one, which I'll just get out of the way, which I think is table stakes, is forming a good team, right? I mean, I work with people that are 10 times smarter than I am, and they bring a diverse experience and diverse skill set to our group. So that one, I think that, is maybe a bit of a cliche answer and is a bit of a given, but the real answer, I would say, is stop looking at the competition, right? It's, and I look at this amongst real estate agents. I led a team of 35 agents, and it was always just kind of like looking at the competition. Okay, well, what are they doing? And, am I going to just copy that? And one of my favorite books, and I read it a long time ago, and then when we started Bode, I reread it, is by Peter Thiel, who's one of the co-founders of PayPal. It's called 0 to 1. Mm-hmm. And it's really about creating a monopoly. And so creating a business where you don't compete with anyone. And that's kind of what I feel like we've done. Like, I no longer feel like I compete with the 5,800 agents in Calgary. That's great. They're in their own arena. They're competing in that arena. And we're meanwhile very slowly and thoughtfully building our own arena, where really, a lot of brokerages have taken this step towards disruption and innovation. And what does that look like? Well, it still looks like an agent showing up to give you a listing presentation when you decide to sell your house. And it's really not that different. And we're saying we're actually reimagining the entire process. And that's where right now we simply don't have competitors.
I love that answer. Stop looking at the competition, and this is why I've never changed this question in 180 interviews, because I thought after about the first couple months, like all the answers are going to be out there, but here we are getting something that I haven't heard of before. So I think it's just unique when you talk to, individuals like yourself that think outside the office, so to say, come up with something like that. Everyone's always like, oh, we got to see what they're doing, kind of maybe emulate them or maybe tweak it or maybe do better or find out. And I say that to this day, I've never not looked at the competition or what's going out there. So I think that's a really neat tidbit of advice. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be competing with agents, because that's a really competitive business. There's a relatively low barrier to entry to become licensed, which means that there's a lot of agents out there, and as technology increases and improves, the role kind of becomes more commoditized, and as services become more commoditized, there's going to be more pressure on commissions. And that to me is just a matter of time. So it's definitely a space that I didn't, let alone all that I'm learning in a brand new industry of tech. It was not an industry that I was comfortable sticking around in.
No, I get that. I understand it, right? It's a lot of people have frustrations with the way things have always been done, and now they have an option. So I really appreciate you, Jeff, coming on here, sharing your story, and I know you guys are kind of a poster child of the Calgary tech scene and up and coming company, and everybody's talking about Bode and watching what you guys do, and congrats on your expansion into Vancouver. It's exciting watching companies like yourself, grow, scale, and wherever it takes you, who knows? But kudos to that. Congrats for you, Lindsay, and I forgot Robert. Anyway, your entire team it's just fun to watch what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jade. We're really excited, and we've got bold ideas and a bold team. So we're excited to see how the next 6 months and year goes.
Oh, and I'm excited to watch. I can't wait. This is probably a good update, an update episode in, it's probably a year's time to see that you've taken over Canada.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. Again, thanks again, Jeff. And for anybody out there, please check out the Lighthouse Healers Summit. It's free. You'll get some good inspirational stories about people who've gone through certain struggles. And of course, thanks to Joanne and her team at Sexy AF Spirits, alcohol free. Their website's in the comments section, sexyafspirits.com. So thanks again, Jeff. I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to our next conversation. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jade.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.